Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Behind the Group podcast. I am DJ Keo.
And I am Basil Barrington, and we are back with another film review. Today, we are going to take a look at Minted, the rise and fall of the NFT. This is available on Netflix. This is a 2023 film, and it just became available, I think, on Netflix. IMDb gave
Yeah,
this joint a 6.1. What do you think about this joint?
this is a cautionary tale
Yeah.
that everybody should have seen coming. I know, this is one of those things where like, oh, this is the future. It's gonna be like this. Like, no, it is not.
No.
Sorry. And so, I when I was watching it, I had my hand on my face like this the whole time. Like, oh, you didn't see this coming. How did you not see this coming? What did you look? We talked about this when NFTs super became popular and they're all over TV. I
Mhm.
remember I made maybe 3 or 4 YouTube videos about this topic,
Mhm.
warning everybody bombs about to fall out.
Yeah.
This don't make no sense because
Mhm.
that's exactly because they talked about it in the movie. It was about when all of the entertainers got involved, and that's when I was like, "Oh, this is a
It's
dumpster
over.
fire.
It's
Do
over,
not get an
dude.
NFT."
It's over. You know,
Yeah,
it's we did a video on
yeah, we did a
Crossfader.
video about it.
We spoke
Yeah.
about this because artists were like, "Hey, you know what? I'm not." They're like, "Hey, you know what? I'm not like going to release my music on Spotify. I'm creating my album as an NFT if you guys want to like
Yes.
purchase it." And it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, you have 2,000 followers, right? Or 500
Mhm,
followers. Or it's just like, let's say you have 10,000 followers.
mhm.
Probably 9,000 or almost damn near all of them don't have a
Mhm.
wallet. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Or
just like,
care about what an NFT is.
right,
They don't even think
exactly.
about it.
They don't have a wallet. They don't know how to get ETH, all that
Mhm.
stuff, right? The thing about
Yeah.
NFTs is this, right? And
Mhm.
we spoke about this, and we also speak about it just when we just speaking about it like offline
Yeah, we
today
were
and
laughing
whatnot.
we were laughing about it earlier,
Right,
like
exactly. It's just like once you have something that is, I always say this, if something is, you know, if something is being distributed via, just
Mhm.
like code, like the blockchain,
Yeah,
right? There are
yeah.
ways to manipulate that. There just is, right? I mean, like, criminals
Yes.
like can take everything out of your wallet, the whole nine, right? So once I saw that and I was
Mhm.
like NFTs, and then I was like looking at these like pixelated images, I'm like, these are like apes that, I mean, they were made on like
Yeah, I was like, "This is
a
dope."
Macintosh computer, right? I was like, this is ridiculous, right? And then I was like,
Yeah.
okay, once I started seeing the type of art that was available, Open Seas, Board Yacht Club, all
Mhm.
that sort of stuff, right? I'm like, okay, I see what's going on. Now it's getting
Mhm.
to a fever pitch, and I was like, now the scams are gonna start. Now, like, people are gonna start taking
The
money,
scams are
and and
brutal what they're
and then
doing.
what happens in the blockchain world, the crypto world, the
Mhm.
NFT world is, if you're not in on the ground level and you try to
Yeah,
get
it's
in
worthless,
midpoint, it's over.
worthless.
It's
It
over.
You have to be the second person to purchase one of these things
Right,
ever.
exactly.
And
We
that's when and that maybe
Yeah.
and that's the thing, you have to add the maybe part of it to it,
Mhm.
that possibly you can benefit from this thing.
Yeah.
But generally, everybody else is gonna be part of this Ponzi scheme, and it's gonna fail miserably
Yeah.
to them. And that's the movie touches on. It had, like, a bunch of artists all the way around the world, and they all were like, "Ooh, we can make money." Everyone's thinking, "We can make money off of our art."
Right.
And I'm gonna sell my art this way.
Mhm.
Everyone's looking at the money dollar signs rather than the way to make this thing work is that Picasso was painting because he liked painting. He wasn't painting because I'm gonna buy my mama a house. Like he wasn't
Right.
painting for that. He
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
painting because he liked painting. And then a couple years after he died, someone looked at this like, "Holy crap, this thing's amazing! I'll pay $2 million for it." And then now it's worth a bunch of money.
Yeah.
But like at the time when he was making it, it was worthless. And that's the kind of thing of with art. A lot of this art, the people that make the money from it, or the to make the art that's valuable, isn't valuable when the artist is alive. And
Yeah.
they touched about this in the movie. Most people who are artists do not get paid when they're alive. It's after they die, and it's like
Mhm.
100 years later,
Yeah.
400 years later, they're like, "Oh, look at this thing! It's Picasso!" Like
Right.
that's when
Mhm.
this thing kicks in
Yeah.
for art. And they've tried to accelerate it by the internet and the being
Blockchain and all
on
that
the
other
computer or
stuff. Mhm.
whatever,
Yeah.
and it doesn't translate because like the
Mhm.
problem for this art is I need to look at this in a computer. Well, it's not worth anything to me.
The guy
We
was
talked
like,
about this.
he was showing his art. He was just like, "Hey, this is my art." He was showing it to like
Yeah,
girls
he's
in
like,
the
"Look at
club.
this.
It's just
Look at the
like,
girls in the
and
club. Like, look at me."
and I said that to you when we were doing this, like, when we were
You
discussing
said
this
this.
on the CrossFit. I
We
was just
said
like,
this back
I
in it.
said,
Yeah.
dude, I want art on my walls. Dude,
Mhm,
I just had a painting restretched. I
mhm.
want
Yeah,
art on
yeah,
my wall. I don't want like
yeah.
I don't want to buy art and the only way I can see it is, I mean, sure, I can like take it to a print shop and print it, blow it up,
Mhm,
everything else. But no, I want it on wood, like original. I want the original joint. The other thing about NFTs is this, right?
mhm.
When I saw the whole
Yeah.
NFT thing happen, I was just like, I am not touching this at all. And like you said, once the celebrities got involved, it was over.
It was a
Over.
dumpster. It
It
is
was
a
over,
dumpster
right?
fire.
And the other thing you look at when you look at NFTs is just like it's only a
Mhm.
small percentage of people making money off of
To make
NFTs.
any money off
Right.
NFT.
It's just
Yeah.
like Bitcoin right now. It's like you have to have a lot of money to
Mhm.
invest in Bitcoin. A joint is like 85,000 dollars a coin, right? However, you can get like a Bitcoin ETF or something like that, for like
Mhm.
35, $45, whatever. But you have to put a
Yeah.
lot of money into that, because again, one Bitcoin is
Mhm.
85,000 dollars. So it's like, hey, I want to buy some Bitcoin. It's like, well, no, it's kind of too late
You have
to
to buy a
invest.
percentage of a Bitcoin.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
NFTs struck me the same way as the metaverse did. I'm
Mhm.
just like, once
Yes.
big business started buying real estate in a metaverse that didn't exist, that, Mark Zuckerberg was still building,
I
he's like
I
dropped
laughed
like
at that. When that
20,
happened, I
20,
laughed,
30 billion
man.
dollars into the metaverse. And then he was like, nope, AI, the pivot was AI.
Mhm.
Coca-Cola,
Mhm.
Nike, all these big companies, they were buying wall space, real estate
Yeah.
inside of a metaverse that didn't even really exist, right?
Yes.
And I
'Cause
was
they
just
I
like,
think you're right, but a lot of this stuff happened
mhm,
during the pandemic, and so,
yeah,
people were in their houses,
mhm,
and I think a lot of people didn't think the pandemic was gonna end or end recently or, end in a reasonable amount of time. So, I think a lot of people thought, "Well, this is our life now going forward. We'll never be able to go to a club again. We can only do this thing online."
right.
And so I remember, like, people were doing, like, parties in the metaverse, and they had the DJs there. They're doing all of this stuff, and I think that it was this touchstone moment in time that
Mhm,
could only fit for this moment.
yep,
And it doesn't. Once the clubs start opening, we were talking about this before. Like, there's a lot of stuff we had a conversation about before, but this is one of those things. Once the clubs start opening again, I was like, oh, that's the end of that.
that's the end of
This thing
that,
is over.
you know.
Metaverse done for.
Dumb.
This is a wrap. We're not
And
doing
once
that anymore.
AI opened up, it was just like, oh, what?
Yeah,
This is
it's
the money right
over.
here,
Like,
But it's so weird
yeah.
because the NFT thing is just like, again, I
Mhm.
really, in no shade to anyone, like any of the artists out there, but
Yeah.
because some of them, like some of the like the painters and like the graphic artists and the mixed media,
They're trying
all
a
that sort of
thing.
stuff,
They're
right?
trying.
Even your girl Latasha, from the movie, she was putting her music up as an NFT,
Mhm.
right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's cool. But again, the thing about NFTs is like you really have to understand the technology. It's just like, okay, do you have a wallet?
Nobody understood that.
Okay, do you know
Nobody
how to
understood the
purchase
technology.
ETH? Okay, do you know
Yeah.
how to get this and then transfer it over to your wallet and then download it? Do you
Mhm.
know all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Once during the lockdown, once this stuff started to become popular, I was like, okay,
Mhm.
now the big scams are gonna come. Now the ripoffs are gonna come, and that's what
It
happened.
came, man.
The guy was
That's
like,
exactly what happened.
the guy on Minted, he was like, he was on Twitter. He was on Twitter.
Mhm.
Let me tell you something
Mhm.
first and foremost, right? Before I even get into the story. Yo, my
Mhm.
frat brothers, my sisters, they send me, I get
Mhm.
stuff via text with links like, hey, check this out on Instagram. Dude, I never, ever, ever, not unless I know you
Ever.
hardcore, It's like when you send me stuff
Even
to watch,
then, I'm like, "Yo, where'd you get
right?
this from?"
But if when you send me stuff like to watch on YouTube, I click it. I know we boys, right?
Mhm.
So I'm like, that's coming from
Yeah,
my
yeah,
man,
yeah.
right? But other people, so
Yes.
he went on to Twitter, right? And he was like, hey, this is they were like, hey, this is what's going on with the, your NFT. He clicked the link. He clicked
Lost
the link,
everything,
dude.
bro.
He said as soon as he
I
clicked the
heard.
link, he was like, well, wait a minute. The I was supposed to be an L, or the L was supposed to be an I,
Mhm.
and he lost half a mil just like that, right? Here's the other thing. We were talking about the Doge millionaire, right? And he was like going
Yeah,
on
yeah.
CNBC the whole night. He was like, hey, look, I have $4 million in my account, right? And what did I tell you on like offline? I was like, dude,
Mhm,
if I'm looking at a bunch of money that belongs to
mhm.
me that I made legitimately that I've never seen before, I've never seen this much money in my life before. And I
Yeah.
have the ability to withdraw that money out of a crypto exchange and then maybe put it
Mhm.
into, like a wealth management account or something like that, a Fidelity or something like that. I'm
Yes.
doing that. This guy, he was like,
Yes.
well, I'm loyal. And then when it was all said and done, he probably like, had about $400,000. It's just like, dude,
Mhm.
I don't understand this. And again, I get the whole, as an artist, you see something that is new and
Yeah,
interesting
you
that
trying
you
to
can sell
latch
you
on to what future tech is gonna be,
exactly.
whatever the thing is.
But
Yeah.
what the NFTs, what NFTs did was the same thing that streaming services did. They took art from
Mhm,
individuals,
mhm.
monetized it, and then gave the artists less money, right?
Yes, yes.
Because with the NFTs, they figured out that hey, other people were like minting their own. They were minting their NFTs. So the NFT I created, other people were minting these and then selling them. And I was just like,
Yeah.
so your art isn't safe. I want art that's on the wall, dude. That's what I want. I want art that's on the wall. Don't give me something on the
I said the
phone.
same thing. I said the
Yeah,
exact same thing. I'm like, "I want this Picasso on my wall. I don't want
I
it
want it on my
it's
wall.
online. I got to turn my phone on to go look at I wasn't stare at it in the hallway."
Yes,
Like, that's the for me, the art part that I couldn't get into is that I'm required to need the internet plus a computer
yeah,
plus there's too much stuff to require. If I'm gonna buy art, like I had a friend of mine, she's an artist, and I got her to paint something for me, and I'm like, I like this. This art is cool because it's physically in my hand.
right.
Now, who knows what's gonna happen in the future? But as of right now, we're not ready for the only art that's on your thing.
Mhm.
Basically we would need to be inside pods for art to be on a computer screen, and that would work. You know what I'm
Or
saying? Like we need to be underground after the
in
disaster. You know what I'm
silo,
saying?
in
Like
silo,
like
yo.
silo. Yeah,
Yo.
it would require a silo level event for
Or
us to be like, yeah.
or a serious like, if you were like in the future, like let's just say like in like if you look at some Star Wars movies and like, when they're like
Mhm.
on Coruscant or something, you do see digital art
Yeah, you
also
on some
like,
crazy
with
planet.
Foundation or
And
something like that, some of
yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
sci-fi
Okay,
joints.
that totally makes sense then. But
Right.
like, as
Mhm.
long as I'm on Earth and go to museum or actually buy art,
Yeah.
no, I'm not gonna do
Mhm.
this. This is
And then
stupid.
and then they were saying like speaking of museums, they were saying like MoMA is gonna digital and also the Louvre. They're gonna digitalize all of their like art like as NFTs, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, see that's what I'm saying, right? It's cool.
What
It's
what
another way to
happened
make
to that?
money. Hmm?
Because the way they were talking about it, that was in the past. What happened
Yeah,
to that?
that was
Because no one's
2020
thinking, "Oh,
exactly.
what
They're
happened
not
to the
doing that
NFTs at
anymore.
the
Yeah,
Louvre?" Like, no one's thinking about that. Like, you
yeah.
can say, like, no one's worried about NFTs right now.
And then the
This funny part is when
mhm.
it died. Like, no one's even saying these words together again.
Yo, I mean the Board Ape Yacht Club, cool. That name is so cool. So
It's
cool.
very cool.
It's
I have to say
very
that.
cool.
It's pretty cool.
Um, and I was just like, well, and then when I went up there and I'm just like pixelated monkeys, I'm like, this is cool. Again, again, yo, you're not gonna see me DJing in the kitchen. That's not for me.
Mhm.
That's not for us,
Yes.
right?
Yes, yes, yes.
A pixelated ape, that's not for me. I want my art on a
Mm.
wall, right? I want someone to like, you know what I'm saying? I want that joint on the
Yeah,
wall
yeah.
for real.
No,
And
because
the other
if they
thing
were
is
selling
this,
them as T-shirts, I'd be like,
that
"Oh, that's gonna
that would
print
be
money."
cool. That would be cool.
Yeah,
Right.
that would have I would have bought one. If
Yeah.
this is a one of a kind T-shirt, you can only get this one thing.
Yep.
Sign me up. That
That
looks
would
interesting.
that would
But like,
be
here's
yeah.
this thing. Hold on, I gotta put it on my phone. Hey, look at
No.
this. I'm cool. I got it on my phone. Like, come on, man. Like,
And
I
there
looked at that
is
as so corny.
that was so corny. And the other thing about like art, like that's up on the
Mm,
walls, is there's exclusive element to it. You know, it's just like, oh, I bought that.
yes.
That's one of a kind. You know,
Mhm,
no one else has that. When you walk into my crib and I got this. I bought this piece of art when we were in the Dominican years ago, and the joint
mhm.
is about like 6, 7 feet tall, about like 4 feet wide, 4 or 5 feet wide. And I bought a
Yeah.
frame for it that cost me almost $1,000. Frames are expensive, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's
It's
like
super
front and
expensive.
center. You know, when you walk in the crib, boom, that's what you see. Conversational piece. I'm not gonna be like, hey, how you
Mhm.
doing? You know, I'm like trying to
Yeah, like,
talk to a girl, like, hey, you want to see my art? You know, like, here you go. Just like, no, that's like, yo, NFTs, like, that was a huge scam. I think it was a
Yes.
scam. What do you think?
It was 100% was a scam, and I think it was a scam for people who don't understand the internet.
Hmm.
Like, I've been around long enough that I've seen other stuff happen that I'm like, "Oh, don't click on this button. Don't go to this website. Don't do this thing." And, like, it's how a lot of people felt about Bitcoin before Bitcoin, like, really, really blew up.
Yeah.
Bitcoin was super shake people don't understand this because everyone's like, "Well, why don't you just buy Bitcoin?" It was hard to buy Bitcoin back in the day.
You have to
It
go on
was
the
very
dark web.
really you had to go in a dark web, and
Yeah.
you really
Hmm.
need to know what you were doing.
Yeah.
And I looked at that, I was like, "Oh, that's not for me.
No. Hmm.
Like, that's not for me."
And it was real
And
cheap
so, like,
too, you know?
yeah, yeah, it was super, it was like pennies on the dollar, like, so but, like,
Hmm.
you looked at it, it was like there was no right now, there's an app, you just put on your phone, and you can put your thing, get your Bitcoin, like, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
Back then, you had to get your wallet, and there's no guarantee that you can get this thing,
And where do you
you get
get
the
your
money
wallet
out of the
from?
wallet.
Yeah,
Well, that's the
exactly.
thing. There was no guarantee that you can get the money off of the wallet, and
Right.
that's why I was like, I don't know about that." I mean, looking back now, like, that was stupid on my part. I probably should have
Hmm.
bought some just to have it, but, like, because it was so difficult to get to it and then to get
Hmm.
it off, I was like, this is a waste."
Yeah.
And NFT turned out to be what I thought Bitcoin was going to be. And it turned out to be a waste, and
Complete waste.
they suckered so many people, just regular people who don't know anything about the internet. They suckered so many people to get into this thing that didn't work. Like, it didn't do the thing that they wanted to do. Like,
Yeah.
I kept saying, like, if there's like a digital frame that was in your house, then maybe it kind of makes sense. But
Yeah.
like, oh no, yeah, I have to hold my phone. I got to look at the CRT monitor.
Right. You
What my
know,
thing is like,
and
this
the
is
other thing is
stupid.
like the digital art you're downloading, how large is it? Is it like is it a JPEG? Because if it's a
That's
JPEG, that's not
bullshit.
good quality. Is it a,
Yeah, well, that's part of the
SVG
art.
file or
That's
something
part of
like
the
that?
art.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. You know, and here's the other really interesting thing about the NFTs. When I started hearing that
Mhm,
artists, like recording artists, were starting to
mhm.
sell their albums on
It
open
was game
seas,
over.
you know, and everything. I'm just like, that's not gonna work,
Mhm.
right? It's just like,
Nope.
so what the artists did, because they're like, oh, you know what, we want to move away from Spotify, so we're gonna create an NFT album, right? So,
Mhm.
you know, you created your album, you put your album, you created an album and you didn't put it on Spotify or any
Yeah.
of the streaming services. You said, hey, I'm gonna put it up as an NFT and see what happens, right?
Mhm.
What you did was you now removed thousands, millions,
Mhm.
tens of millions, hundreds of millions of
Hundreds of
possible,
millions.
right, of possible people who could listen to your joint because you thought that
Mhm.
you would be able to make more money as a NFT. Now, you know,
Mhm.
let's not forget back in the day, Prince was like, yo, you know what? I'm not putting my music on streaming service yet. When he did an
Mhm.
album, he sold it on his website first, right? And just like
Yeah.
for about 2 months and made a killing. Everything came to him. Once he made his killing, then he put it up on streaming
Mhm.
services. The whole thing about like putting your album, your music up as an NFT,
Yeah.
I think that's like that's just so goofy because it's like you're stripping away the potential listeners that
Yes,
you
to
could
reach
have.
more people.
Right, exactly.
You
On a
can't.
streaming service. And then the other
Mhm.
thing is the people who
Yeah.
are your listeners, do they understand what a crypto wallet is or
They do
ETH?
not.
Because
They do not.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like you got to buy ETH, and
Yeah.
do you understand the gas fees and all that other stuff, right?
Mhm.
Back in the day,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
even like during the lockdown and before the lockdown, gas fees were crazy, you know?
Mhm.
I mean,
Yep.
I was
Yeah.
buying like, they were saying we figured out, my brother and I, we figured out that, well, we didn't figure out, but we just kept playing
Mhm.
around when to buy crypto, right? And it was just like, oh, the
Mhm.
best time to buy crypto on the East Coast was 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, or
Mhm.
between 2 a.m. and like 3 a.m. So basically between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. because
People sleep.
the network was slower and the gas fees were less expensive. So I don't
Mhm.
know, like, so, and the thing about the NFT movie, the minted movie is, even like athletes, like with the NBA champion, playoffs coming up, they all say like, to win this thing, you do need a little bit of luck on your side, right? So if you look at
Yes.
the NFT,
100%.
yeah, if you look at the NFT space, right, there are some artists who actually did really well with NFTs, right? But they also
Yes.
had luck on their side. They were there at the right
The
time,
first.
early,
They're
you
at the
know
beginning of all
Yes,
this stuff.
exactly, right? So
Yeah.
once it blew up and then you were like, "Hey, this is blowing up. I'm going to do it." It's probably too late.
Too late. It's way too
Yeah.
late. Once
Yeah.
once regular people even heard of the thing,
Normies.
know what the phrase is, it's too late.
It's too
Normies, when they hear this phrase and
dude.
they know what it is, too late.
Mhm.
It's too late. Just throw it away.
Right,
Start
exactly.
something new.
So it's like it's like just fads with words and everything. Like when Paris Hilton was saying, "Oh, that's hot," and people kept saying it, and just like, "No, that's not hot anymore." You know,
Yeah, now
NFTs
because
aren't
everyone
hot
else is
anymore,
doing it.
right?
Yeah.
The Board Ape Yacht Club. I don't know. Maybe they're gonna pivot. Open Seas. Maybe they're gonna pivot. Uh,
They did not pivot.
yeah.
They went under.
The
Because everyone was banking on this thing working long term.
Yeah, and they got a lot of VC money too, man. So and
Mhm.
NFTs
We getting
went to the
billions
wayside.
for
It
this
was
stuff.
really great during the lockdown because it just gave us something else to do, while we
Mhm.
were just inside, So it was really cool.
Yeah.
But once the scammers got involved, they were like, "Yo, this is how we can make
I
money."
I wish the documentary would have touched on the lockdown aspect of it, because that's a
Yeah,
huge factor for why
yeah,
this thing happened. It's a
mhm,
giant factor, because people here's the thing, people don't wanna look at this stuff on their phone or their computer if they could go outside.
right,
That's the thing that they couldn't do. There's a time frame when NFTs blew up, and they said the year, but, like, they didn't explain why. The why was because everyone was trapped inside their house, and you couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't do anything. You try and go to a grocery store, only 3 people allowed in the store. So like this thing was an escape. That's why it caught on so fast, and that's why it flamed out so fast, because it wasn't a natural progression for people who are like, oh, this is the future of this art thing. This was just, oh, I'm gonna make more money real quick, and then I can pay for this mortgage because I don't need money.
get
I can't go to my job right now. That's what
and-
everyone's thinking. I'm gonna
right.
make money real quick,
And a lot of
and
people
that's
were
what
saying
killed
that.
it.
They were like, "Oh, I got to pay my rent my rent this
Yeah.
month," and it's just like,
Everybody in the movie was talking about it. There's only one person who wasn't is that people guy.
people got
He's the only one not talking about money.
exactly
Everybody else
right.
is like, I gotta pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
I gotta do this thing. I gotta get out of Cuba. Like everyone's talking about money except that one guy.
And you know what? And I love going to art shows, and I've been to like digital art shows too,
Mhm,
where I'm in a gallery and it's just like almost like a Beeple show, just like digital art the
mhm.
whole nine. Pretty dope too.
Yeah,
There's
I like digital art.
Yeah, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But it's just like the NFT thing, it's here, it was here, it's not here. And yeah, like
Well,
the
I
movie
will say this
said, the
before we
rise and
wrap up.
fall of the NFT for real.
Is the rise of people that's the beginning of the movie. It starts
Hmm.
with him getting $69 million
Hmm.
for his art piece. And the only reason why I think he was successful is because he's the only person thinking about this offline.
Right.
Everybody else was like, I need to get this online. He's like, how can I get this off the computer into the real world?
Hmm.
Because they show him later on in the movie, he's doing this art piece thing, it's digital or whatever, and he's got monitors everywhere and stuff like that. But it's outside.
Yeah.
There's a warehouse full of people outside
That was a
looking
sick
at this
show too.
thing.
That joint was sick.
Yeah, it looks sick. I would have went to
Hmm.
that. Like, it
Yeah.
looks sick, but, like, but that's the thing is that he's the only artist that actually made money. Everybody made a little bit of money, then lost their shirt,
Yeah.
but he's the only one that made actual money. Retire F you retirement money. He's the
Yeah.
only one that made that. And he kept thinking about I need to innovate this art thing and do it in a different way. And that's the why he made the money.
Like you
It's not
said,
just
yes.
yeah.
Like you said, off the computer into the real life, the real
Yes, that's
world,
what
I
he
should
did.
say.
That's what
Yeah.
he was
Wow.
doing.
That's so true, man. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness. We are talking about Minted, the rise and fall of the NFT. Keo, what are you going to rate this film?
I give this a cautionary 8 because it was fascinating and I got to enjoy it from the outside looking in because I was like, "Oh, this is dumb. This is gonna fail," and it turned out to be right.
Yeah.
So, like, I enjoyed the movie more so because I was right. I'm looking at this stuff like, "Oh, this is not gonna work out." Especially when they started talking about the celebrities, I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be bad." And so, like, when this thing was going on, was happening live,
Mhm.
you and I had a podcast. We talked about it offline and online, and we're like, "This is a dumpster fire."
For real.
and nobody could see it. Well, I should say nobody, but a lot of people got wrapped up in it because here's the problem for art. Art, you have to enjoy art regardless of the cost or your ability to make money from it. That's the only way the art works. If you're only making this thing to make money, art it's not going to work. Like
Yeah.
the people guy that made the 69 million, he was just making art every day just
Mhm.
to do it.
Yeah.
He
Like
wasn't
he's,
doing it to make
yeah,
money, and
that's
then just
true.
made money
Mhm.
because the heart was there, the love of the art was there.
There you
But
go.
like these other guys are just trying to make money real quick, and they failed, blew up in their face.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that. It's a Schadenfreude movie. I enjoyed the dumpster fire.
Yeah. You know what? I'm also going to give it an 8 because it's like you said, a cautionary tale.
Mhm.
It it it's also kind of interesting that, the younger generation, they thought it was just like really cool to have like an NFT
Mhm.
on your phone and to show it at clubs and stuff. Hey, look at my NFT. It's just like, you know, and
Yeah.
so, scammers, they
Mhm.
really dig deep into the mind or the minds of the people or person that they are going to
Yes.
scam. You know what I'm saying? So, and it's
Yes.
just like at that time, a lot was going on, and also a lot was gullible. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's just like it's
Everyone's
an NFT,
desperate. They're desperate to
desperate.
make money.
You know what I'm saying? And like you said, it kind of took
Mhm.
off during the
Mhm.
lockdown. After the lockdown, not so much, right?
It's a huge factor.
Yeah, and the other thing is this. Once people started like saying they were creating NFT albums for their like music, I was just like, wow,
Mhm.
that's just so goofy. It's just like
Ain't gonna work,
you're
man.
removing you're actually removing the fact that you can reach more listeners on a streaming service than you can on an
Mhm.
NFT. How dumb is
Yes.
that? I was just like, okay, you see, that's what I'm saying. You like a seasoned
Mhm.
artist, Beeple, like
Mhm.
you say, he was an artist, right? He was a digital artist. He
Yeah,
was
he's an
doing this on
actual
a
artist.
regular basis, you know, and he probably always wanted, right? He
Mhm.
probably
Yes.
always wanted to have a show in a physical location because
Yes.
that's the dream of an artist. You want to have an art show.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Not through Zoom on or like on open seas, but in a really
Exactly.
in a really cool
Exactly.
warehouse where you can meet really cool people and you can just freak
Mhm.
out and like, just create like just be really mad creative and mad whimsical with your art in person,
Mhm. Yes.
live, analog. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's art.
Mhm.
An
Yeah.
NFT, I'm not so sure about. So, the other thing we now need like the metaverse, the rise and fall of the metaverse. That's what we
That
need for
has to be
real.
soon, man.
Yeah, that's
And then
gonna be
how much billions
soon.
did they spend into this? They
Well,
spent a fortune on
we
that.
know we know Zuck spent at least 30 billion. That's what they're saying too.
Yeah,
You know,
that's the number they're telling you.
that's the number they're
That number's gotta
telling
be
us. You
way
know what I'm
higher.
saying? For real. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we are talking about Minted, the rise and fall of the NFT. It is on Netflix. Go check it out. Well, there you have it. Thanks for checking out another episode of the Behind the Groove podcast. I am Basil Barrington.
I am DJ Keo.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next time, peace.
All right.